David Charles Gross, here we are. You're back from sunny Hong Kong from your birthday celebration.
Big 6-0, Trev. Hello, welcome to Season 2, Chapter 8, Verse 73. We're almost coming to the end of this first season, Trev, but...
second season.
I meant second season. I meant second.
Have you had too much red wine?
Listen, let's be honest. We're recording this on Friday afternoon. I've had a hell of a week.
Ooh.
And I will confess to have right next to me here a can of neck oil. So, happy Friday to everybody.
Are you allowed to say that?
I've said it.
Well, you have. You've said it.
Anyway, we got a great guest on today, and again, it's another business which talks very clearly about their journey. This particular company and the individuals behind it have a great story. Again, the story is underlined by their ability to be at a part of their journey thanks to a member of the guild, Mr. Neil Baxendale, who he talks openly about. And if it wasn't for Neil and his time and his understanding and his commitment to raise the funding that this business needed to get to the next level, he certainly wouldn't be where he is now. As we say in the interview, Trevor, how many businesses do we know that have said this to us time and time again?
Absolutely. I love our podcasts. They're brilliant because we don't prompt them. We just ask them the questions. And without exception, everyone we've done has turned around and said, if it wasn't for the guild member taking the time, getting in the car, coming and seeing them, blah, 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 they would be nowhere near where they are today. Listen, I put a little post up on LinkedIn yesterday about this because I was so excited about it after we recorded with young Joe. And, I said this is the sort of stuff that should be bottled. It should be sent to every business owner in the country.
Yeah.
Because it is an absolute testament as to how I go about raising business finance.
And I was at a meeting earlier today.
Well done.
Thank you very much. About time I get out and do some work. But no, the feedback I got from this customer, he was close to going forward with a lender, and the accountant who I know put me in touch with the customer, and I've quickly advised him based on the lender, nothing against the lender, but I generally believe that there was a better fit for him out there. And he did say to me, thank you. If it wasn't for your input, then I could be going with the wrong lender and paying the wrong price, etc., etc. Anyway, I'll stop blowing my own trumpet because we want to get on with this. We have had a number of transactions of the month come through.
Fire away.
I think one that came through that really stood out, there was many of them. Our friend Charlie Wilson, Asset in General, has sent us something. We can't go through it all because we'll be here for a while, but the nub of what he was saying is that the lender he was working with, it was a challenging proposition. It was a challenging application. It was a challenge for Charlie and the team to put the paper together, for want of a better word, but the lender wrote back and praised him for everything that he did and simply said that if it wasn't for them, then they would have struggled to have put this facility together.
Superb.
So I think, again, it adds value to the fact that what we do for business is important, but the lenders, we keep talking about this as a tri-party situation. We got the customer, we got us, we got the lenders. And the lenders are saying, look, what the value that you bring to us to give us the opportunity to lend based on the write-up and all the information you provide us is significant because it gives them a peace of mind and a want to support these kind of businesses because of the effort's been put into it, Trev.
Well, this is it, isn't it? We bang on about the exploitation of some platforms out there on the interweb and all the rest of it. The one thing that our intermediaries have, David, is they have a real knowledge of the business.
Correct.
A real understanding of the business. And look, if they send that proposition to a new lender, that new lender hasn't got a clue who that business is, doesn't understand it. So what Charlie's clearly done there, as all our members do, is explained the whole scenario, explained the situation. I haven't seen his proposition. We don't need to. We know what he's done. He's done the job properly. He's done it thoroughly. I just wonder, was it for a chocolate factory?
No, it wasn't. I wish it was, but no, it's a boring piece of plant and equipment. But
okay.
The fact of the matter is, Trevor, is that, we have some good relationship with lenders and we appreciate everything they do. But, when you get to situations like this, to have the value of a professional business finance intermediary that knows their stuff, meets the customer, gets to know the customer, exactly what Neil did with our guest coming up, And then once they get to know the customer, once they get underneath what this business is all about, and more importantly, who the individuals are, then they have they've developed a situation where they have a confidence of being able to go to a lender and say, here's an opportunity that I'd like you to look at and hopefully support. And of course, as Joe will tell us in the interview to follow, that's exactly what happened.
Do you know what? I can't remember who it was. I had a conversation the other day, and a lender said to me something really interesting. Their number one thing that they look at wasn't the financials, it wasn't the cash flows, it wasn't the business plan, wasn't anything to do with that. It was, who are the people? Who are the people behind this business?
That was always the way back in the day, wasn't it?
Of course it was. And so it should be. Who are the people behind the business? What's their integrity? What's their experience? What's their modus operandi? How are they going to look after what, quite frankly, when someone lends a business money, it's their investment in that business.
Yeah.
You know, it might be called asset finance. It might be called, asset-based lending or invoice discounting or trade finance. It's simply an investment in that business. Yeah, and if that's what it is.
And I had a situation this week as well, and I'm not prepared to support this business because I don't have much faith in the people that are running it. And if I don't have that faith and I don't have that trust, how can I present that to a lender without putting my hand on my heart? You know.
You can't, and listen, my friend, well done for walking away from that. You've done exactly the right thing. If you can't trust the people that you're working or potentially working on behalf of, then move on. Move on, my friend.
Correct.
And you've done exactly the right thing. Right, should we get tucked into young Mr. Regan? And he is young, folks. This is a compelling story, and boy, does this man move quickly, really quickly. But like Dave just said, he wouldn't have got anywhere near where him and his gifted and talented team of people have got to today if it wasn't for our dear friend Neil Baxendale over there at GTF Event Equipment Finance. I suggest, as I said, you really don't get interrupted on this one. Listen to what young Joe talks about. It's from the heart. It's passionate. We got a bit touched, I think, Dave. You know, it took us back to where we were kids going on school trips and residentials, and that's what he's doing.
Yeah,
he's giving life experiences and life memories to the school children.
And we want this to be shared, the story. So again, if we can please share this. This is a business that talks from the heart, and it talks from how they've got from A to B thanks to the intervention of a guild member. And if we can share this with other business owners that are in a similar situation, then we're doing something, aren't we?
Do you know what? I wrote something to a colleague that, funny enough, a good colleague, hopefully now, that Rory introduced me to, ironically. And it just came home to me, the importance of understanding the people, the business, but also what it came home to me, this, and I said this to Mike, business owners, SMEs, and particularly micro SMEs, who are the absolute lifeblood of this country, they're not financial experts. You know, they'll know who NatWest is or Lloyds are or Barclays or whatever, but they haven't got a clue as to what to do with that lot they know. You know, then they don't do that for a daily living. They don't do it for a daily job. That's what you and the colleagues in the guild do.
I think for me, and I know for others, the number of businesses that failed last year is unacceptable.
No, it's getting worse.
I know how many of those businesses potentially could have been saved had they had the intervention from someone like myself or the Neils or the Charlies or anyone in our guild that would have been able to help them through this. It's just not going as well as we all want it to go because we just don't think there's enough support there. But hey,
right, should we crack on, boy?
Do it.
We bored everybody senseless with our perennial rant, but listen, folks, it is a crusade. You know, we ain't going to stop this ever until we get to the situation where that signpost is up, that disconnect is mended, and the great and the good of UK British businesses know exactly where to go to as far as business finance is concerned. Sit back, folks. Listen to this one. This one, in my words, is an absolute belter.
So I'm delighted, Trevor, to introduce you to a young man. Do you want to introduce yourself, Joe? What's your name? Where are you from?
Yes, so good morning. My name is Joe Regan, 25 years of age, based in Hertfordshire, and run Rooted Adventure Limited.
Wonderful. In fact, when you say based in Hertfordshire, we're just talking off air, weren't we, that You're actually based in an area which I'm very familiar with, Harpenden, which is an area I lived in and around for about 10 years. And St Albans is also where the office is based. Is that correct now? You got this new office?
Yes. So quite recently just moved into a new office on a farm just outside of St Albans, which I guess running an outdoor venture company and having your office on a farm is a very nice fit.
So Joe, take us right back to the beginning. My understanding from your notes is you've been going about 10 minutes, haven't you?
Yes. So we were founded January 2024. So we've been operating for sort of 15 months. We had experience of working in the outdoor sort of sector. Or I'd been involved in a previous family company, but due to certain circumstances, decided to take the leap. And I guess we joke, but on our first day, we had 3 laptops, an office space, and an idea of how we could deliver these residential trips to schools, but not much more. And I guess if you fast forward to where we are now, we have last year delivered 75 residential trips to schools.
Wow.
This year we're currently sort of forecast to deliver 92 trips. And for every school that's visited us so far, we have a 100% rebooking rate for next year as well. So I guess in a very short space of time have come a very long way. So Rooted Adventure is a outdoor adventure company. We primarily deliver school residential trips. We work with a lot of primary schools, sort of ages 7 to 11. We work with a large amount of prep schools and independent schools as well. And we also focus on that sort of intro to secondary school with year 7 transition trips as well.
Okay. When you say accommodation or you talk about residential, what sort of residential accommodation are you providing?
So we have an offering at the minute at our Hertfordshire site of 2 different options. We have 2 bell-tented villages, which are bell tents with bunk beds, coir matting floor. And we also have a brand new pod village.
Joe, shut up. I'm booking in already. I don't care. I'm sold. I'm in. I could do with romping around in the undergrowth for a week or 2. But so not only are you putting roofs over these children's heads, are you actually laying on, I'll call it entertainment or activities? What's the program?
Yeah, so a full activity package too. I think we talk about being a school trip organizer with a difference. And I think our difference being our accommodation, like we touched on with the pods, but also our activities in terms of our nature and our bushcraft focused activities. You can go to a lot of bigger providers and they have a real focus on heights and harnesses. But I think we're different in the activity program focuses on a lot of bushcraft. So shelter building, fire lighting, tree and plant identification, a lot of things that children don't necessarily maybe get the opportunity to do at the moment in terms of accessing these spaces and sort of taking it back to basics with those activities. So a real focus on getting your hands dirty, exploring the woodland and the environment and having fun at the same time.
So I've got to ask you then, I mean, it's obvious, and I know the listeners need me to ask this question. Do you yourself, Joe Regan, see yourself as either A, Ray Mears, or B, Bear Grylls?
Neither.
Right, that's it. Cut it. Not interested anymore. No,
I think they've both done fantastic things, and I think we sort of, with what they've started, we obviously draw a lot on it in terms of our bushcraft programs. But yeah, I think we're looking to be a bit different, and I think we're looking to offer a product now in terms of outdoor adventure and outdoor education that is really relevant to the times that children live in now. I think you probably have a lot of people that come on and talk about the impact of COVID and stuff from a business point of view. But I think actually the impact of the pandemic for a lot of these young children, and this is now a really important time to have this offering and this provision. But I also think it's a really great opportunity to deliver it and pitch it in a way that's relevant to the sort of society we live in now.
So when I was growing up, I grew up in London, and London at the time did have open spaces, but certainly didn't have the open spaces that I know the likes of Harpenden and beyond have. But as a kid growing up, we used to go on these adventure school trips. Isle of Wight was where actually my school went. And I remember as a youngster, not just leaving London, but going on, I think it was a minibus and then going onto a ferry which went across to the sea, and then ending up in what I would call, as a youngster, a big park, but on a much bigger scale. So we would be in a sheltered accommodation, we would be with our teachers and our friends, but to get out of the school and also out of our normal social environment and to go into this space which offered all these activities. I mean, even now, I can still remember that experience, and it was a highlight of my childhood because it took me out of London. So seeing what you're doing, do some of the schools that you work with, are they inner city schools? I.e., do they go for that same transfer of city to country? Because that must have a real uplifting effect.
Most definitely. I think one of the challenges, I guess, for a lot of these schools is, so I went to the Isle of Wight too, and I guess, like you say, a long coach journey, a ferry, and then you get to this space that offers that. And I think the difference now is that we're conveniently located on the M25, the M1, an hour from central London. And I think a lot of schools have realised you don't have to travel 4 or 5 hours to be able to access these areas, these spaces that then offers the children everything they need. So we work predominantly with a lot of schools out of inner London, I guess, with rising coach transport costs. The fact that they can hop on a coach, be with us in an hour, and we can start the adventure is a real draw, and they're not losing anything by not going to places like you say, like you went to in the Isle of Wight.
Yeah.
I'm loving this, Joe. Someone once taught me not too long ago, life's not about what you buy, life's not about what you own, it's not about what you acquire, it's about what you experience. And ain't that the truth?
100%. I think that my experiences in my own childhood, and I sort of my interests and my hobbies in terms of being outdoors, being active, and the experiences and the opportunities I had have shaped what I want to achieve and provide as many children in the long run as possible too. Everything else sort of becomes immaterial to that.
Yeah.
I think it's.
And in terms of a business model, I obviously we get what it does and what it delivers. But in terms of schools these days, I mean, how does it work? Because I know that schools have this formula, which is all about education, of course, but part of that is to give children's learning experience, their school experience, if you want, something to, I don't know, add value in one way, shape, or form. So this must tick the boxes of so many schools who are looking to take children out of the classroom and into these open spaces to do all the stuff that you guys offer. It must be, from a business model, perfect, because you're offering this incredible package that every school surely should be wanting.
I'd like to think so, yes. I think that we sort of, with the younger children, if you take year 3 and 4, our new pods have been the perfect sort of introduction to a night away. We've already touched on the pandemic, but a lot of children during that time didn't even get the chance to have a sleepover at a friend's house. So whether it's that sort of personal development, whether it's the activities that then relate to what they're learning about in the classroom, and they get that extension, it's across that whole experience that we're looking to provide that and tick those boxes, like you say.
I want to come to something that I've picked up on you already, Joe. You've got a very almost philanthropic view to looking after the well-being of children, educating them, giving them experiences and all the rest of it. Let me cut to the chase. Where's that come from? Where inside of you is that an influence from parent or someone else?
A lot of it comes down to my mum. When I was growing up, she ran an outdoor adventure company. I guess I experienced how she dealt with customers, with different situations, and really learn and sort of was shaped from that. I think I have a lot of my qualities and my skills come from having observed her, with my own sort of passion mixed into that. But really, I think a lot of it does come from what I was exposed to in younger years, in terms of the opportunities I had with working and seeing the difference you make to those kids as they come and they leave in a very different position to how they came to you in. But I think really it was a lot of seeing my mum's experience and really shaping me from there.
Your brother's a part of this business.
Yes. So Jamie, my brother, I founded the company with, and essentially running it together on a day-to-day basis.
Great. So you and your brother obviously have a good relationship.
Well, I think it probably has its moments,
Of course,
like
every relationship.
if you have living, working, and being brothers in the same pot, it's an interesting combo.
But nonetheless, you and your brother obviously got respect for each other. That's the most important thing. But you both had the same passion, and to work together as two heads together to push this business forward is amazing.
Joe, how big's the team? How many have you got? I mean, you and Bro.
So we have a full-time team of 9.
Okay, good.
Obviously, during, I guess, the seasonal nature of the business and our busy periods, we sort of have seasonal staff and go to 16, 17.
Sure.
But currently our core sort of full-time team is 9.
Okay. And if memory serves, when we used to go on trips about the same sort of time as Dave, so, we weren't long out of the cave age and cavemen when we went on trips compared to you, Joe. But the teachers come along and they support, and they're there to look after, the pastoral care of the children as well. So you've probably got a fairly big unit.
Absolutely, yeah. The school bring their teaching staff, and then that's great. It allows us to form that partnership with them, but also really focus on making sure that those children's experiences is as good as it possibly can be.
Good. One final question before we get into a bit more the nitty-gritty. Listeners won't see it, but young Mr. Regan here is sporting a very nice sponsored jerkin, sweatshirt, call it whatever you want, and he's got his company logo embroidered on it. Tell us where the name Rooted comes from. I notice it's the modern spelling for the younger listeners. ROOTD. My English teacher would turn in his grave if he saw that, but there we go. It's the modern way of doing stuff. So talk us through where that's come from.
So I guess when we came with a great idea of starting a business, one of the first things we had to try and establish was what we were going to call it. And I remember being sat round a table with my brother and a couple of the other guys that were working with us at the time. And I guess we spoke about what was important to us, why we were sat round that table, and what we wanted to do moving forward. And I think the general consensus was that everything that we had done before was sort of laying the roots and had got us to this point. But also our own passions, like we spoke about previously, were really rooted in what we were doing. They were sort of fundamental to what we were doing. And I think then we spelt it in a funky modern version. And I think then allowed us to create a brand that had real emotional equity for children. I think that where we look to stand out and be that organizer again is with sort of a lot of functional activity centres. We wanted to create a brand that had real emotional equity and real excitement for the children that visit us.
And I like that, emotional equity. That's a nice phrase, that. And look, it does what it says, doesn't it? Dave, your business, I know the derivation of that. Joe, look, listeners are going to just be all over that.
So the business needed capital. You needed to find a way forward. How did it initially start? How did you get the initial capital to open the door just over a year ago?
I actually just took a loan personally. From the bank, but we had 3 laptops and an office space that we could only afford for 3 months, I think it was. And we had the first sort of down payment deposit, and that was it. And then I guess we got to work in sort of telling the schools as to what we were about, what we wanted to do. I guess along the way, a bit of luck, like you have to have, and then really starting to deliver these programs in the spring of last year to our first customers as Rooted.
So 3 months after you started, you're delivering these programs?
I think off the top of my head, our first trip was March the 4th, so
Good
8
grief.
weeks.
No.
Yeah, it took us about 8 weeks, and we were then off and running.
And just for my own curiosity, but others might be thinking, how did you open the door to these schools? I mean, don't tell me you were literally knocking on doors, were you?
No. So I guess I was very fortunate that I had a lot of relationships with schools already from sort of having worked in the industry previously.
Yeah.
So that was obviously a real help, sort of being that familiar face and reaching out to schools and saying, this is what we're doing, this is what we're about, but also getting that slice of luck along the way that allowed us to take on some other contracts of schools and really then showing them what we could do, I guess.
Yeah.
Great.
Superb.
And just from my understanding, in January last year, what did you have to offer? You didn't have any pods then, did you, or bell tents, or?
So we were working again, happened very quickly, but we were working out of a charity-run activity centre in Surrey, which had pods of their own that we could then pay as a business, I guess, a rental fee to use to deliver our program. So that's how we started last year. We had pods; they weren't our own pods. Yes. So we were hiring off a third-party activity centre, paying for the use of their pods.
And Joe, sorry to be pedantic, just explain to the listeners what a pod is.
How would I describe a pod? Essentially, so a timber structure. The ones that we use are 6 meters long, 3 meters wide, all kitted out for the children with bunk beds and other bits that I guess allow them to stay comfortably and be warm, rather than being in a tent.
And they're semi-permanent, stroke, movable, stroke, whatever. But I would imagine once they're rooted, see what I did there? Once they're rooted, they probably tend to stay where they are.
Yeah, they do, for sure.
Okay, great stuff. So you started off with basically a facility that was already there, and then we got the next step, haven't we? So when this has moved really quickly to the point where I guess we can introduce your relationship with one of our business finance professionals, one of our guild members, Neil Baxendale. But if you can give us a potted history as to, you went from the Surrey facility and then to jumping into providing your own pods and bell tents and equipment, etc.
Yeah, so I guess like any business, you're presented with challenges and problems, and you've got to find a solution. And so in the spring of last year, we were sort of working out of this site and paying that rental fee, but with increase of pricing, and I guess not having that asset on our books as a business too, we were looking at other opportunities as to how we could finance and fund our own pods. And I guess a really quick Google search found Neil, and within 2 weeks he was driving down to Harpenden to see us, and that was really the start of that journey.
So let's just stop there for a sec. So this is Mr. Neil Baxendale of GTF Event Equipment Finance. I'm glad you found him, but it's almost a shame you had to go to Google to get to him. But move us on from there.
Yes. So then Neil straight away was sort of like, "Yeah, I'll get in the car. I'll come and meet you. We'll sit around a table and we'll go from there." And I guess the first thing that Neil did when he met us was to understand us as people and to understand our own motivations and purpose before we even spoke about what we were looking to finance and how much we needed. So sat round the table, having a bit of a laugh and a giggle, and really getting to know each other on that personal level first.
I mean, look, I think for me, you said something really important here. Neil got in his car and came to see you. You didn't go online. You didn't have to go through, get £500,000 in 10 minutes and don't worry about any paperwork or the interest rate or any of that malarkey. Someone came to understand you in the business. I think that is, in essence, what our guild members are all about, isn't it?
Absolutely. This is the point we're driving at here. Trevor and I, and many of the people that are part of the guild, we are also trying to work with government at the moment, who have just launched an initiative to try and find a better pathway for businesses to gain access to finance. Whether it will come of anything, goodness knows, because that's what governments do these days, but they'll come up with the idea, and whether it happens or not is neither here nor there. The point I'm trying to make is that finding the Neils of this world, they're out there. And if we can somehow put signposting up so that you, your brother, and any other business can gain access to finance without having to Google, then we have achieved what we have set out to achieve. It's a bit like, we always use this IFA, independent financial advisory model. So if you, Joe, wanted a mortgage or you wanted to gain access to a pension or whatever it was, you would typically try and go through the advice given by an independent financial advisor. This is what we do, but we do it for businesses. Indeed. But we want to make sure that when the Joes wake up in the morning and they want to try and gain access to finance, they find the Neils, because the Neils, there are a few Neils out there, and I'm one of them, and there's many others in the guild. But how do you find us? You were lucky, you did find Neil, but there are other businesses that I've worked with that have used Google, and they haven't been so fortunate.
I would suggest to you, Joe, Neil came down and probably spent a good number of hours with you, the team.
I think probably in that first initial meeting, probably 4 hours.
Yeah.
would be a rough guess. I think probably for that first hour, if not more. I'm not sure Neil probably said a word. I think he was obviously listening and understanding us. He probably at that point thought, "Oh my God, what have I got myself into?" But yeah, spent that initial bit of that meeting really understanding us as people and then understanding where we wanted to get to. And I think it's probably worth me touching upon now, where I think someone like Neil is so valuable. I think in that first meeting, Neil spoke about sort of our initial passion and how fantastic and how much he believed in us and the business. But I think we said, well, we've only started 3-4 months ago. Nobody's going to be crazy enough to lend us that money. And I think the real advantage of someone like a Neil is, and he calls it storybook lending.
Correct.
But it's the thing of understanding your story and you personally, and then taking that to then pitch to these lenders about it being more than just maybe numbers on a piece of paper. Because, like you say, where we were, numbers on a piece of paper weren't really a thing. It was this passion and this vision that we had that Neil sort of listened to, bought completely, and went off and made it possible.
Do you know, you said something absolutely crystal clear and needs to be brought out, this word storybook lending. But what does that actually mean? If you're a consumer and you want a loan, that can be relatively easily digitalized. Yeah, because fundamentally it's the same algorithm, if you like, to get to the end result, because you're an individual, I'm an individual. The only difference is we live in a different part of the country, might be a different age, and our income might be different. You can digitalize that. You can't do that with business. And that is a fundamental truth of what we are trying to get over. Your business, Joe, Rooted, is unique because it's you, your brother, and the team running it. That's what makes it unique. And because of that, you can't put a one-size-fits-all over it. And that is why government needs to understand that. You can't just ram all businesses into the same channel. Pod. Yes, like it.
No, it's
You're talking very passionately, Joe,
yeah.
and you've used the word passion. Dave, you've used it.
Yeah, and I think, again, from my experience, and again, I do very similar work to what Neil does, and I meet a lot of businesses. But can you imagine how many more Joes, for example, are out there trying to achieve what you're trying to achieve? Now, if they hadn't met the Neils or they hadn't met the Davids, would that business have ever gotten to the place that it's at now?
What do you think to that, Joe? Would you?
No, is the short answer. If I hadn't met Neil, we wouldn't be in the position that we're in. And I also don't think we'd be talking about some of our future plans without knowing Neil too.
Do you know what, Dave? Do you know what, Joe? You could take those last few sentences, put them in a bottle, send them off to any business in the country and go, right, open this bottle when you need help. This is what you need to do.
Correct.
This is what you need to do. You cannot waste your time going to banks who aren't interested in startups. And you cannot waste your time listening to your mate down the pub. And you got to be very, very careful when you go online with Google, because I'll tell you what, that is the Wild West out there.
So for you to share this experience with us, I mean, the podcast is part of the crusade, for want of a better word, signposting. So we appreciate your time, and to share these stories hopefully will resonate with others. But more importantly, the story that we're trying to share with established businesses at the moment is you shouldn't have to worry about any aspect of gaining access to finance, providing you've got the access to people like us in the guild. The Neils is a perfect example. So again, really appreciate your time. But can I just park the business to one side for now? When Joe's not working.
Yes.
Come on.
I'm a keen cricketer in the summer.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, I play cricket of a Saturday. I enjoy, I guess, being active, the usual sort of going to the gym, those sorts of hobbies, as well as, I guess, like you say, visiting the pub at the end of the week.
Do you go to the cricket? Do you watch the cricket at all? Do you go to any of the test matches, or root for her playing?
Every now and again, sort of with playing and working, the opportunity doesn't present itself massively, just because it's our busier time of the year.
Of course.
The summer. So not as much as I'd like to, but maybe one day.
Okay.
And your brother plays cricket as well, doesn't he? He's got some
He
cricket
does.
coaching.
Unfortunately, he's a better cricketer than me. Unfortunately, as much as it pains me to say it, but he's also really keen into his cricket coaching. He has a real passion for sort of working with children and sort of seeing them develop, whether that's skills in a cricket sense or also sort of personally, like one of our residential trips. So yeah, that's really key to him.
And that, again, you may have heard the podcast we did with Rory Underwood, and he was talking about in his business, and Dave, you prompted him to come out on this, the parallels between particularly team sports, getting people to be better than the sum of the parts is a metaphor for business, isn't it? I mean, you've got a team there of, what did you say, 8, 9, 10 people. They've got to work in harmony together, haven't they? They've got to work together. They can't just go off and do their own thing.
Yeah, very, very different settings. But I guess I captain the cricket team and I run a business. And like you say, there are huge parallels in terms of having that team there and sort of what you're trying to achieve and how you go about doing it.
So, okay. So you've been established 10 minutes now, 12 pods up and running. You've gone from... what was it? Just over 73 schools you catered for, trips for last year. You're already going to deliver 92 this year, and you're already exceeding 25% for the full year next year. Talk us through where you go. Is it more sites? Is it more pods? Is the sky the limit? Are you, I don't know, going to do blooming helicopter rides? What's next, mate?
So I guess our real aim is to roll the pod village out again. I think that sort of like I touched on earlier, very short amount of time in terms of been delivering this year, but every group that have come have loved them. We're on 100% rebooking, and I think now for us it's probably the future of our business in terms of the accommodation option. So I guess looking at how we can take that and roll it out to more locations, to more sites.
Yeah,
and like you say, is the sky the limit? I'm not sure, but I definitely think with what we've got and sort of the people we've got involved, we can really give it a good go.
And what would be your role, Joe? What would you still? I presume you're still getting your penknife out and whizzing a few sharp sticks in the woods.
My brother will be the first to say that I don't deliver my share of activities, but no, sort of during that, especially that summer period when it is our busiest period, be on the archery range, maybe helping one of our bushcraft instructors deliver one of those sessions. I like being hands-on, and you can't really keep me out of it for too long.
Listen, look, I think, I know Dave very, very well, I think the pair of us have really got, I don't want to use the word warm and fuzzy, but just we've picked up on your passion, but we've picked up on what it is you're actually delivering for these school children. It's what I said earlier. It's about delivering experience. Dave said it himself, didn't he? You said it. One of my school trips was to France, but I remember it. Dave remember it. You remember it. And these children will remember this probably for the rest of their lives.
I think you and your brother have got something very exciting here. And again, from someone that's older, a bit like Neil, who's been with a lot of businesses over my career, you've got all the ingredients to be very successful. And how you put the word successful onto paper is neither here nor there. But in terms of your passion for what you're doing and what you're delivering, I think you've got a very, very exciting future in front of you.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I think the like you say, the opportunity that we were presented with, I guess at the time, after, I keep talking about the pandemic as well, but after the pandemic and how it was so important to be outside, children missed these opportunities, and it really highlighted how sort of their social and personal development was really sort of halted by that too. So I think we're very fortunate that we're sort of coming to it now at the time we are, with something that is a different product to what is out there too, and I think that's a real key as well.
I agree, and I know children out in Europe, part of their curriculum is to go skiing. A lot of the French people that I know out there, their schools do a similar program, but up in the Alps. I can't always compare the UK with the rest of Europe, but their education seems to be surrounded by activity. Yeah. The French are one, whether it's the skiing, whether it's the rugby, it's just sport. And I was lucky enough to be out in Australia for a couple of years, and the climate had a lot to do with it. But every child at school was cricket, rugby, cycling, athletics, swimming, golf, and everything that made them probably the people that they are today. I think it's so important. And like I said, I think what you've got here is a fantastic model that can only go from success to success.
Yes. Thank you. It's very exciting.
Great. Good.
I think I'd say one final thing over and above what I said. I think, Joe, I've been sat here. I've been highly entertained by your journey. Neil Baxendale, God bless him, salt of the earth. I'm going to say it to you, Joe. You know, you probably now consider Neil as part of the business.
Incredibly grateful for having met someone like Neil and all the other people throughout it. And I guess the sort of, like we say, the exciting bit being this is just the start of the journey.
Joe, it's brilliant. And, you know, we're about to start revisiting some of the businesses to see how they've got on. Now, I know it sounds a long way away, but we'd love to come back and meet you in 10 to 12 months' time and see how things are going. So if you're up for it, we'll definitely be up for it. And we'd love to take it from there. But listen, Joe, you're an inspiration. I don't care how old you are. If you're good enough, you're old enough. We all know that phrase. But Dave and I, we wish you really continued success.
Joe, listen, thank you so much again for your time. Again, wish you all the very best for the future. It's very exciting. As Trevor said, we'd love to come back in a year or so time, see how things are going on. So thank you again. Give my love to Harpenden.
I will do. And yeah, it would be great to sort of come back round in 12 months' time and see where we're at and what we've achieved.
Perfect. All right, Joe.
All right, fella. See you later.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
That was another great interview, Trevor.
Superb, mate. Superb. And yet again, another endorsement for partnership with members of the Guild.
Absolutely. And do you know what Joe said and other business owners have said on so many occasions? If it hadn't have been, in this case, the meeting with Neil, or in other cases, the meeting with our members of the Guild, then arguably that business wouldn't be where it is today. And that says a lot, doesn't it?
Mate, listen, if I could do one thing, if I could ram this episode and previous episodes where we've got guests of our members on the podcast, if I could ram them down the throat of government today, I can retire happy.
Don't get started on that.
How many more examples of if I didn't find so-and-so, how many more examples
I know.
do we need to communicate?
And I think Joe used the word, certainly in the show notes, rare to meet someone like Neil.
Yeah.
Well, Neil isn't rare. Okay, let's rephrase that. He is rare in certain circumstances because he's a great guy. But what I'm trying to say is that we're not rare. You know, people like myself and Neil and everyone else that we have in this podcast, we're not rare. We're around. We're available. It's just gaining access to people like us is the problem. And you know, if this podcast is doing something, Trevor, it's trying to get these businesses aware that we're all here.
Yeah.
We're all able. We're all willing to help. We just need you to find us, or vice versa.
And I have to repeat what I said on the conversation with Joe, David. You know, business finance is not a one-size-fits-all. You can't commoditize it. It's just impossible. Businesses are peculiar. They're individual. They're unique. You cannot just answer 10 questions on a computer screen, press the button, and you're either computer says no, computer says yes.
Yeah, you said about digitization, you know, and Joe spoke about storybook lending and whatever words you want to use. The fact of the matter is, and we've always accepted that evolution in our industry is important, like as with any industry. And gaining access to finance, you could argue, is digitized. You know, there are lenders out there that allow you to apply online, and the algorithm will decide whether you're worthy of the loan or not. But the fact of the matter is that in the majority of cases, there is a story behind every business.
Yeah.
You know, I'm working on a number of cases at the moment where businesses need someone like the Neils of this world, like myself, to get into the business and meet the directors and get familiar with what the business is doing and who the people are. It's from there on that you get to the point of putting the whole application together to then go to the right lender to say that this is a business that we believe in. Do you support us? And will you be happy to provide the level of funding that they need?
Dave, for all that we hear about AI, for all that we hear about digitalization, no one is going to go and sit with a business owner and listen to what they've got to say.
Correct.
And, you know,
correct.
They can't do it. They never will be able
Can't
to
do it. Won't do it. Don't care about doing it.
And Joe said it himself. If it wasn't for Neil, they wouldn't be where they are today.
No. And how many reports? I mean, I know there was a CBI report that you shared recently, Trev. This is going back 10 years ago, and I know there's various things that other people have done following the banking crisis or whatever it was that go on about. There's no awareness. There's no the relationship between lender and business owner.
No,
the access to all these words that people use is still around today, and nothing's happening.
I'd say a couple of things on that, Dave. It's a hugely relevant article that I was forwarded. I was generously forwarded by the author, actually, of that article. I'll perhaps cover that in a future podcast. Yeah. But I'll say something hugely important here. There is no problem with liquidity, i.e. money, being available today in the UK economy. Statement number one. Statement number two. The problem is business owners knowing where to go to find guidance and direction to ensure they get the best fit finance. And that's the problem. And I'm sorry, a lender, be they as big as HSBC or as small as whatever, they are a commercial entity. They're not there to provide advice to business owners. That doesn't exist.
No.
The only way they're going to get that advice is meeting, talking, listening to the likes of Neil Baxendale, as Joe has just said, because Neil took away that story, took away the understanding, probably half an ounce of passion and half an ounce of belief in the individuals, and he was able to find the right. And I know it wasn't a single solution. He probably had to find a number of lenders to provide that solution. Well, the business owner himself wouldn't have known that.
No.
He would have tried to knock on the bank door, and the bank would have said no after 3 months. You don't know what you're doing, kid.
Yep. Many industry leaders talk about that there's insufficient promotion of organisations like the Guild, and that has to change. And for as long as we grab our microphones here, Trevor, and don our headphones on, we're trying to do the best we can to make sure that promotion changes, because
I agree. I agree.
No one in their right mind can understand why there isn't the promotion stroke signposting.
I agree.
Anyway.
The cause goes on, Mr. Gross. The cause grows on. Yeah, another fabulous session. And Joe, do you know what I liked about him? He's a bright young lad. He's a motivated young lad. And talking about what he knows and he believes in and he understands. And let's be honest, giving these children experience of a lifetime on their outward bound courses, I think it's tremendous work, mate. I think it's absolutely tremendous work.
It's not easy coming onto a podcast and talking about yourself. There are some people can do it naturally, but Joe, I think he's a modest chap ultimately, but more importantly, I think he's got to recognise somehow. I'm sure he does in his quiet moments that what he and his brother have got here is a business which I generally believe is going to go from strength to strength.
It's a nice model.
It's a great model, and again that the cause of it. We talk about businesses and their causes, just like the Guild, but the cause behind this is absolutely every school has got to be wanting to put their children through these kind of activities. And certainly from Joe's point of view and the company that he's got, it makes children's being part of that school enjoyable. That's got to add value, right?
Yeah, love it. Love. Good work, well done, Mr. Baxendale. All hail, hearty fellow. Well done, pat on the back, and I'm sure you treat all your customers in the very same way, and I'm sure Joe will be a customer for a very long time to come. So, folks, look, you know by now, but just in case you've forgotten, this, as all previous episodes of the podcast, are across all social media, Spotify, Apple, YouTube, and all the other Herberts. You can go direct to the Guild website where they're all stored on there, which is bfpguild.org. Or if you really fancy it, put a couple of shekels in our coffers and support the podcast and just go to bfmbuzzsprout.com.
Yeah, keep the feedback coming. We haven't had time to call out some of the feedback that we're getting, but it's all positive, and we're very humbled by the feedback. So at least we know that what we're doing is making sense and it's doing what it's supposed to do. But keep that feedback coming in. We really enjoy the comments,
And
good, bad, or indifferent.
And Dave, I've got to tell you something, my friend. Final comment from me on this one. In 16 days' time, we will be celebrating the first birthday of the podcast.
Trev, I've got a little thought to put your way.
Oh, yeah.
19th of April is our 1 year anniversary. Where are you and I going to be shortly after? How about a little filler on the golf course, down by the beach?
Yes.
In a bar?
Yes. Book early. I'm there, mate. I'm there. Mate, I've got the beer on the bar already.
Let's do it.
Let's do that.
Let's take the podcast overseas. Fine.
That'll be fabulous, mate. In the sunny Algarve, in the beautiful
Why not?
of Portugal. Let's be doing that, mate. And on that subject, boy, am I looking forward to a few days away.
Good. Well, look, let's aim for that, and we'll put a little filler out towards the end of the month. And as Trevor said, what's our website address again?
The website of the podcast is bfmbuzzsprout.com. You can go direct there. You can make a little contribution, as I say, or you can go to the Guild website, which is bfmguild.org. Look to the top right. There's a little tab up there. It says podcast. Wallop. You're in. No excuse. No excuse.
And on that wallop, let's say goodbye to each other in our normal styles, and then we'll get on with life.
Indeed.
Goodbye from you.
It's goodbye from him. See you, folks.
Bye.